Emma Harris was 8 years old and loved exploring the forest near her home. She lived on New Haven, a colony planet far from Earth. Her parents were scientists who studied the plants and animals on this new world. The colony was small, just 300 families living in a peaceful valley surrounded by tall trees and green hills. On that particular afternoon, Emma had promised her mother she would stay close to the research station. But the forest always called to her with its strange sounds and mysterious shadows. She walked along the familiar path, listening to the birds singing in the trees above. The air smelled sweet like flowers and fresh rain. Then she heard something different. A low sound like a groan of pain came from somewhere nearby. Emma stopped walking and turned her head to listen better. There it was again, coming from the direction of the old ravine where she was not supposed to go. Emma knew she should turn back. She knew she should tell her parents. But what if something was hurt and needed help? What if she was the only one who could hear it? She made a choice and walked toward the sound. The ravine was deeper than she remembered. Rocks jutted out from the sides and thick bushes grew along the edges. Emma climbed down carefully using roots and stones as handholds. The sound grew louder as she descended. When she reached the bottom and looked around, Emma froze. Her heart began to beat very fast. There was a creature lying against the rocks. It was huge, much bigger than any person Emma had ever seen. Even lying down and hurt, it looked like it stood 3 meters tall. The creature had 6 limbs like a giant insect, but its body was covered in hard plates that looked like armor. Its head was strange, with parts that moved like a praying mantis, and its eyes were like crystals that changed colors as Emma watched. One of the creature's legs bent in a wrong direction. A large cut along its side leaked blue liquid that glowed slightly in the dim light of the ravine. The creature breathed heavily, each breath sounding painful. Those crystal eyes turned toward Emma. They locked onto her, and the creature's mouth parts clicked together rapidly. It shifted its position, even though the movement clearly caused pain. The creature was preparing to defend itself or maybe to attack. Every smart part of Emma's brain told her to run. This was a predator, something dangerous, something that could hurt her easily. But Emma did not run. She looked at those strange eyes and saw something she recognized. She saw fear. She saw pain. She saw a living being that was suffering. Emma took a slow, small step forward. The creature's eyes followed her movement. Its clicking sounds grew faster, more urgent. "That must hurt," Emma said softly. The creature went completely still. Its eyes stopped changing colors and fixed on a deep purple shade. It stared at the small human child who stood before it without running, without screaming, without showing any sign of attack. Emma sat down on the ground several feet away from the creature. She made herself smaller by pulling her knees up to her chest. She wanted to look less scary, less like a threat. "I'm Emma," she said in the same gentle voice she used when talking to scared animals. "I live here with my mom and dad. They're scientists. They study living things. I think you're hurt pretty bad, aren't you?" The creature did not respond, but it watched her carefully. Emma kept talking. She told the creature about her day, about the breakfast she had eaten, about the book she was reading. She talked about how her mom once fixed a bird's broken wing and how the bird learned to fly again. The creature's name was Kezathalan, though Emma did not know that yet. He was a warrior scout for something called the Dominion Fleet. He had been trained to fight and hunt since he was young. He had helped conquer 12 different worlds. He had honor marks on his armor that showed how many battles he had won. Kezathalan had crashed his ship on this planet while chasing an enemy. His injuries had left him weak and vulnerable for the first time in his adult life. He had expected to die here, alone on this strange world. Now this tiny human child sat before him, talking to him like he mattered, like he was not a monster. Every part of his training told him what to do. Kill the witness. Eliminate the threat. Show no weakness. But Kezathalan could not move well enough to attack, and something else stopped him too. Something he did not understand. The child was not afraid. The child wanted to help him. This made no sense to Kezathalan. "In the Dominion, you did not help your enemies. You did not show kindness to the weak. Compassion was a flaw that got you killed. Yet this small creature offered him compassion without fear, without hesitation." Emma noticed that the creature had stopped making threatening sounds. Its body had relaxed slightly, though it still watched her with those strange color-changing eyes. "Are you thirsty?" Emma asked. She reached into her backpack and pulled out her water bottle. Very carefully, very slowly, She placed it on the ground between them. Then she moved back to her original spot. Kesthelan looked at the water bottle. In all his years as a warrior, no enemy had ever offered him anything. You took what you needed by force. You never gave anything freely, especially not to someone who could be a threat. He reached out with one clawed hand. The movement sent pain through his body, but he managed to grab the container. He studied it for a moment, figuring out how it worked. Then he drank. The water tasted strange to him. His biology was different from humans, but it helped. The liquid cooled his throat and gave him a tiny bit of strength. Emma smiled. It was a real smile, full of happiness that she had helped. Good, she said. That's good. I'll come back tomorrow, okay? I'll bring medicine and more water. Don't worry. You'll be okay. She stood up slowly and brushed dirt off her pants. I have to go now before my parents worry. But I promise I'll come back. I promise. Emma climbed out of the ravine, leaving Kesthelan alone with his thoughts. The warrior lay there in confusion. Everything he knew about the galaxy told him that other species were threats. They were resources to be used or obstacles to be removed. The Dominion had taught him that mercy was foolish and that kindness was weakness. But this human child had shown him both mercy and kindness. She had seen him at his most vulnerable and had responded with help instead of violence. Kesthelan closed his eyes and tried to understand what had just happened. His training had prepared him for many things. It had not prepared him for genuine compassion from a being he had been taught to view as inferior. As the sun set over New Haven, the alien warrior began to question everything he had believed about strength, about conquest, and about what it truly meant to be powerful. Emma walked home through the darkening forest, her mind full of wonder. She had met something amazing, something from beyond the stars, and that something needed her help. She would keep her promise. She would return tomorrow. She would make sure the creature survived. In her young heart, Emma did not see a dangerous alien predator. She saw a person who was hurt and alone, and helping people who hurt and alone was just the right thing to do. Her parents had taught her that. Her teachers had taught her that. It was what made humans different, what made them good. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Tomorrow would change everything. But tonight, in a ravine on a frontier world, a bridge had been built between two very different beings. A bridge made of 3 simple words spoken with genuine care. That must hurt. Emma returned to the ravine the next afternoon as she had promised. She had packed a small bag with things she thought might help. Medical supplies from the bathroom cabinet at home, bandages, antiseptic spray, and pain medicine her mother kept for cuts and bruises. Emma had also brought more water and some food, just in case the creature could eat human food. She climbed down into the ravine carefully. Part of her worried that the creature might be gone, or worse, that it might have died during the night. But when she reached the bottom, she found it still there, watching her approach with those crystal eyes. Kesthelan had spent the entire night thinking. He had decided this must be some kind of trap. Humans were clever. Maybe they sent children to gain trust before attacking. It was the only explanation that made sense to his warrior mind. No species simply helped their enemies without wanting something in return. Yet when Emma climbed down with her small bag and her bright smile, offering supplies and kindness, Kesthelan's certainty began to crack. If this was a trap, it was unlike any he had encountered before. Hi, Emma said, sitting down in the same spot as yesterday. I brought medicine. My mom uses this stuff when we get hurt. I don't know if it will work on you, but maybe it will help. She held up the antiseptic spray. This one stops infections, and these are bandages, and this medicine makes pain less bad. She set everything on the ground between them, just like she had done with the water bottle. Kesthelan studied the items. His species had advanced medical technology far beyond what humans possessed, but his medical supplies had been destroyed in the crash. These primitive tools were better than nothing. He reached out and took the antiseptic spray. He examined it, figured out how it worked, and carefully applied it to his wounds. The chemical burned, but it was a clean burn. It would help prevent infection. Emma watched with interest. You're really smart, she said. You figured that out super fast. Where are you from? How did you get here? Over the next hour, Emma talked and Kesthelan listened. His species had the ability to learn languages quickly. It was a genetic modification made centuries ago to help with conquering new worlds. As Emma spoke, Kesthelan's mind worked rapidly, connecting sounds to meanings, building vocabulary, understanding grammar patterns. Emma told him about Earth, the planet where humans came from. She talked about oceans and mountains, about cities and farms. She explained how humans had almost destroyed themselves in big wars before deciding to work together instead. She told him about the colony, about how people had traveled across space to build new homes on new worlds. My mom and dad study plants and animals here, Emma said. They want to understand everything without hurting anything. They say that's important, that we should learn about things, not just use them. This concept fascinated Kezathalan. The Dominion studied conquered worlds, but only to extract resources efficiently. They cataloged species to determine if they were threats or useful. The idea of studying something just to understand it with no other purpose was strange to him. Emma came back every day after that. Each visit lasted about an hour, the longest she could be gone without her parents noticing. She brought food, water, medicine, and most importantly, conversation. By the end of the first week, Kezathalan could understand most of what Emma said. His damaged vocal structure made speaking difficult, but he could produce rough sounds that approximated human words. Why, help? He managed to ask one afternoon, his voice harsh and clicking. Emma looked confused. Because you needed help. That's what you do when someone needs help. You help them. But danger, I could hurt you? Could you? Emma asked. Right now, I mean. Could you hurt me right now? Kezathalan considered lying, but he found he did not want to. No, too weak. Then you're not dangerous right now, Emma said simply. And when you're better and you're not weak anymore, I think you'll remember that I helped you. I think you'll be my friend instead of hurting me. The word friend struck something deep in Kezathalan's mind. Warriors of the Dominion did not have friends. They had comrades, allies, fellow soldiers. But friends? That implied something more, something based on choice rather than duty. Tell me about Dominion, Emma said one day during the second week. That's where you're from, right? You said that word in your sleep yesterday. Kezathalan had not realized he had been speaking, but Emma's question required an answer. She deserved the truth. Slowly, with his improving language skills, Kezathalan told Emma about the Dominion. He described an empire that stretched across 100 worlds. He explained how the Dominion viewed other species as either useful or threatening. He told her about the conquest fleet, about how warriors like him scouted new worlds and evaluated them. They will come looking, he said, for me, recovery team. Find this place, find your colony. Emma's face went pale. What will they do when they find us? Kezathalan struggled with how to answer. They will evaluate. Humans are unknown. Unknown is dangerous. They might decide to... He could not finish the sentence. Decide to attack us? Emma asked quietly. Maybe. Or control, or watch. Depends on what they learn. Emma sat very still for a long moment. Then she said, we have to tell my parents. We have to tell the colony. They need to know. Yes, Kezathalan agreed. For the first time in his life, he was choosing to help a species that the Dominion might see as an enemy. The child's compassion had changed something fundamental in him, but telling the colony would have to wait. Because that same day, things started to go wrong. Emma's mother, Lisa, had noticed that medical supplies were disappearing from the cabinet. Small amounts, nothing dramatic, but enough to catch her attention. Scientists noticed patterns, and this was a pattern. Emma's father, Greg, had noticed his daughter's strange behavior. She disappeared every afternoon at the same time. She came back with dirt on her clothes and scratches on her hands. When they asked where she had been, she gave vague answers about exploring. The colony's security officer, a serious woman named Helen Brooks, had found tracks near the forest edge. They were unlike any tracks in the database of local animals. Something big had moved through that area, something that walked on multiple legs. Helen called a meeting with the colony council. She showed them pictures of the tracks and explained her concerns. An unknown large creature near the colony was a potential danger, especially to children who played in the forest. We need to organize search parties, Helen said. Find out what's making these tracks. We need to know if it's a threat. Peter Campbell, who led the colony council, agreed. We'll start patrols tomorrow. Everyone needs to keep their children close until we know more. That evening, Lisa and Greg sat Emma down at the dinner table. Sweetie, Lisa said gently, we need to talk about where you've been going every afternoon. Emma's heart raced. She had known this moment would come, but she had hoped for more time. Time for Kezathalan to heal more. Time to figure out the right way to explain everything. I've been In the forest, Emma said carefully. We know that, Greg said. But where in the forest? What have you been doing? Emma made a decision. She could not lie to her parents. And more importantly, Kezathalan was right. The colony needed to know about the Dominion. Keeping secrets would only make things worse. I found someone, Emma said. Someone who needed help. Someone from far away. Lisa and Greg exchanged worried looks. What do you mean, someone from far away? Lisa asked. I mean someone not from Earth, not from here. Someone from space. From a place called the Dominion. The room went very quiet. Greg leaned forward, his face serious. Emma, this is important. Are you saying you found an alien? A real alien? Yes, Emma said. His name is Kezathalan. He crashed here and got hurt badly. I've been helping him get better. He's nice, Dad. He's my friend. Emma, Lisa said carefully, if there's really an alien near the colony, we need to know about it. Where is it? Is it dangerous? He was dangerous, Emma said. But he's not anymore. He's hurt and getting better. And he has important things to tell us. About his people. About what might happen when they come looking for him. Greg stood up. We need to see this creature tonight. Can you take us to it? Emma nodded. But you have to promise not to hurt him. He's my friend. He helped me understand things. And he wants to help us too. We promise, Lisa said, though her voice was uncertain. Show us. As Emma led her parents into the darkening forest, Kezathalan waited in the ravine. He had heard Emma's prediction, that she would bring others soon. He was as ready as he could be for what came next. The warrior who had conquered worlds now prepared to face his greatest challenge, convincing humans that an alliance with a Dominion scout was worth the risk. His life had been simple before Emma found him. Follow orders. Complete missions. Serve the Empire. Now everything was complicated. Now he understood that there were different kinds of strength. Now he knew that the child who had shown him mercy had also shown him a better way to exist in the universe. Whatever happened next, Kezathalan would not forget the human girl who looked at a wounded monster and said, "That must hurt." Those 3 words had changed him forever. Emma led her parents through the forest as darkness settled over New Haven. She carried a flashlight that cast jumping shadows on the trees. Lisa and Greg walked close behind her, their faces tight with worry and curiosity. Neither of them knew what to expect. It's not far now, Emma said as they approached the ravine. Please remember he's nice. Don't be scared. We'll be careful, Greg promised, though his hand rested on the stun weapon he had brought from home. It was standard equipment for colonists meant for dangerous animals. He hoped he would not need it. They reached the edge of the ravine and Emma climbed down first. Her parents followed, moving slowly in the dim light. When they reached the bottom, Emma pointed her flashlight toward the rocks. Kezathalan was there, exactly where Emma had left him earlier. But he had moved to a more upright position, sitting against the rocks rather than lying down. His wounds had healed significantly over the past 2 weeks. He looked much stronger, much more like the apex predator he truly was. Lisa gasped and grabbed Greg's arm. Greg stepped in front of Emma automatically, his protective instincts taking over. The alien warrior was massive. Even sitting down, he towered over them. His 6 limbs ended in clawed hands and feet. His armored body gleamed in the flashlight beam. His crystal eyes reflected the light, glowing with an inner luminescence. His mandibles moved slightly, creating soft clicking sounds. Wait, Emma said, stepping around her father. Don't be scared. Kezathalan, these are my parents. Mom, Dad, this is my friend. Emma, get back, Greg said urgently. But Kezathalan did something unexpected. He lowered his head, a gesture of submission in his species. Then he spoke, his voice rough but understandable. I will not harm. Emma saved my life. I owe debt. Honor debt. Lisa and Greg stared. The creature could speak. It knew their language, and it had just claimed to be in debt to their daughter. You can talk, Lisa said, her scientist mind pushing past her fear. How long have you been able to talk? Learning from Emma, 2 weeks. She teaches. I learned fast. Greg had not lowered his weapon, but he had not raised it either. What are you? Where did you come from? Kezathalan straightened up slightly. I am Vrathak, warrior scout, from Dominion Fleet. Ship crashed. Chasing enemy. Found by your daughter. She gave water, medicine, kindness. The Dominion. Lisa repeated. What is the Dominion? Over the next hour, Kezathalan explained. He told them about the empire that controlled 100 worlds. He described the conquest fleet and the evaluation protocols for new species. He explained how warriors like him scouted unknown territories and reported back to their commanders. He also told them something crucial. A recovery team would eventually come looking for him. When they did, they would find New Haven, and an unknown human colony would require evaluation. What does evaluation mean? Greg asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Means they decide. If humans are a threat, if useful, if dangerous, then they decide what to do. What are the options? Lisa asked quietly. Kezathalan met her eyes. Observe, control, conquer, or eliminate. The words hung in the air like poison. Emma moved closer to Kezathalan and put her hand on his arm. The gesture was small but powerful. But Kezathalan wants to help us, Emma said. He's going to tell them we're good. That we're friends, right? Yes, Kezathalan said firmly. Humans showed me. Different way, compassion, not weakness. Emma proved this. I will tell my people. Request? Diplomatic contact, not military. Greg finally lowered his weapon. And you think they'll listen to you? I am Scout. My reports matter, but... Kezathalan paused, struggling with the complicated thought. Cannot promise. Dominion has rules, procedures, but I will try. For Emma, for honor debt. Lisa took a deep breath. We need to tell the Colony Council. They need to know about this. All of it. I know, Emma said. That's why I brought you here. Kezathalan said we need to tell everyone. They climbed out of the ravine together, though Greg insisted on going last, keeping himself between the alien and his family. Kezathalan understood the protective instinct. He would have done the same. Back at the colony, Peter Campbell received the emergency call at his home. When he heard what Lisa and Greg had to say, he immediately convened the council. Within an hour, all the key leaders of New Haven gathered in the main meeting hall. Helen Brooks, Karen White, the chief engineer, Dr. Stephen Cole, the medical officer, and a dozen other council members listened as the Harris family explained the situation. Emma sat at the front table with her parents on either side. Kezathalan remained in the ravine, but his communication device had been partially repaired. His voice came through a speaker, translated and amplified. The reaction was immediate and divided. Helen Brooks stood up, her face red with anger. You kept an alien predator secret for 2 weeks? An alien from a hostile empire? This is beyond reckless. It's dangerous. He's not hostile, Emma said firmly. He's hurt and he needed help. He's a scout for an invasion force, Helen countered. We should capture him. Study his technology.
Use him as leverage when his people come. That would be foolish, Dr. Cole said quietly.
If we imprison him, we turn a potential ally into a definite enemy. We prove to his people that we're aggressive and can't be trusted. Karen White leaned forward, her engineer's mind working on the problem. Can we communicate with his ship? With his people? Can we initiate contact on our terms? Through the speaker, Kezathalan answered. Communication device damaged, but can be repaired. Need specific parts. Technology. I can help with that, Karen said. If you're willing to work with me, we can try to fix it. Peter Campbell held up his hand for quiet. Let's think about this carefully. We have a situation that could go very wrong very quickly, but we also have an opportunity. This warrior chose to warn us when he could have stayed silent. That counts for something. It counts for nothing if his people decide we're a threat, Helen argued. We should be preparing defenses, not playing friends with an alien scout. We should do both, Lisa said. Prepare defenses, yes, but also extend the hand of friendship. Show the Dominion that humans value peace but can defend themselves if necessary. The debate continued for hours. Some council members agreed with Helen, arguing for caution and military preparedness. Others sided with the Harris family, believing that cooperation offered better chances of survival. Finally, Peter made a decision. We will help repair the communication device. We will allow Kezathalan to contact his people, but we will do it on our terms with full transparency. We'll craft a message together, one that represents humanity honestly. We seek peace, but we're not helpless. We value life, but we'll protect our own. Helen shook her head but did not argue further. Fine, but I'm increasing security patrols and preparing defensive positions. When the Dominion arrives, we'll be ready for either diplomacy or conflict. Agreed, Peter said. Karen, you'll work with our guest on repairs.
Dr. Cole, I want you to establish medical protocols in case we need to treat injuries, either human or alien.
Everyone else, we have work to do. We're about to make first contact with an interstellar empire, and we have maybe 2 weeks to prepare. Over the next several days, Karen White spent hours with Kezthalan, working on his communication equipment. She was amazed by the technology, so far beyond anything humans had developed. Kezthalan was equally amazed by human ingenuity. With limited tools and resources, Karen managed to create hybrid solutions that even Dominion engineers would respect. Other colonists began to visit the ravine, curious about the alien in their midst. The children were especially interested. They asked endless questions, which Kezthalan answered patiently. He found himself enjoying their company, their enthusiasm, their lack of fear. One young boy named Danny asked him, "Are you a bad guy?" Kezthalan thought about the question carefully. "I was warrior, followed orders, conquered worlds. Your people would say, yes, bad guy. But you're helping us now," Danny pointed out. "Yes, because Emma showed me different way, better way." "Then I think you're a good guy now," Danny decided and ran off to play. The simple logic of children, Kezthalan thought. Maybe they understood truth better than adults sometimes. After 10 days of work, the communication device was ready. Karen had integrated human power systems with Dominion technology. It was not perfect, but it would work. The entire colony gathered as Kezthalan prepared to send his message. Emma stood beside him, holding his hand. Her small fingers could barely wrap around his large clawed appendage, but the gesture meant everything. "Remember?" Emma whispered. "Tell them we're friends." Kezthalan activated the device. The signal reached out into space, searching for the Dominion fleet. When connection was established, he began his report. He described his crash, his injuries, his rescue by a human child. He detailed what he had learned about humanity, their compassion, their cooperation, their capacity for both kindness and strength. He ended with a request that had never been made by a Dominion scout. He asked for diplomatic contact rather than military evaluation. Then he waited. The signal would take time to reach the fleet. The response would take time to return. The colony had 3 days of anxious waiting ahead of them. On the 3rd day, the answer came. A Dominion diplomatic vessel would arrive in 2 weeks. The news spread through New Haven like wildfire. A Dominion diplomatic ship was coming. An empire that controlled 100 worlds was sending representatives to meet with a tiny human colony of 300 families. The weight of the situation pressed down on everyone. Peter Campbell immediately sent a message to Earth's colonial authority, but the distance meant communication took days. By the time Earth received the news and sent instructions back, the Dominion ship would already be here. New Haven was on its own. The Colony Council met every day, sometimes twice a day, planning and preparing. They had 2 weeks to make humanity look like a species worth knowing, worth respecting, worth leaving alone. Helen Brooks took charge of security preparations. She did not believe defenses would stop the Dominion if they chose to attack, but she believed showing strength mattered. Weak species got conquered. Strong species got negotiations. She organized the colonists into patrol teams. They set up sensor equipment around the colony perimeter. They established emergency protocols and evacuation plans. The colony's small arsenal of defensive weapons was checked and readied. Helen knew these preparations were mostly symbolic, but symbols mattered in diplomacy. Karen White focused on making the colony look more advanced than it really was. She directed crews to upgrade the exterior of buildings, to clean and organize the industrial areas, to make sure all technology looked functional and maintained. First impressions would be crucial. Dr. Cole worked with Kezthalan on understanding Dominion culture. What did they value? What impressed them? What would offend them? The alien warrior explained that the Dominion respected strength, efficiency, and innovation. They looked down on weakness, disorder, and stagnation. But they also value something unexpected, Kezthalan said during one planning session. Long ago, before conquest, the Dominion practiced cultural exchange, learning from others. This was forgotten, buried, but it is in our history. So they're not purely militaristic, Lisa said thoughtfully. They have a philosophical tradition they've moved away from. Yes, Emma's compassion. It reminds me of old ways my people forgot. Maybe it reminds others too. This insight shaped the colony's approach. They would not just show strength and technology. They would show culture, philosophy, and the human capacity for growth and learning. The colony's small cultural committee, led by a teacher named Betty Morrison, organized presentations. They gathered examples of human art, music, and literature. They prepared educational materials about Earth's history, including both the terrible wars that nearly destroyed humanity and the eventual choice to pursue peace and cooperation. Children from the colony school created drawings and writings about life on New Haven. They made pictures of humans and aliens living together peacefully. They wrote stories about friendship across the stars. Betty believed that showing the Dominion how humans taught their children about cooperation might be powerful. Meanwhile, Emma spent every spare moment with Kezthalan. Their friendship had deepened during the crisis. The alien warrior had become something like a teacher to her, sharing stories about distant worlds and different species. Emma in turn continued teaching him about human culture and emotions. "Are you scared?" Emma asked him one evening as they sat in the ravine, now equipped with human lighting and more comfortable seating. "Yes," Kezthalan admitted. "My people are not flexible. They follow rules, procedures. What I am asking them to do, meet humans as equals, this is not normal." "But they agreed to send diplomats instead of soldiers," Emma pointed out. "That's good, right?" "It is unusual. It means someone high-ranking is curious. Curiosity is good, but curiosity can lead to study, and study can lead to control." Emma was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "My dad told me that when you're scared you should focus on what you can control. We can't control what the Dominion decides, but we can control how we present ourselves. We can be honest and brave and show them who we really are." Kezthalan's eyes shifted through several colors, a sign of emotional processing. "Your father is wise, and you are brave, braver than many warriors I have known." "I'm not brave," Emma said. "I'm just doing what seems right." "That is what bravery is," Kezthalan replied. The days passed quickly. The colony transformed itself not into something fake, but into the best version of what it truly was. People worked together with a unity born of shared danger. Old disputes were forgotten. Everyone contributed according to their skills. On the 10th day, Kezthalan received another message from the approaching ship. It was from the vessel's commander, someone named Vaxteel. The message was brief but significant. "Scout Kezthalan, your reports have been reviewed at highest levels. The human anomaly presents interesting questions. Prepare for detailed evaluation upon arrival." The word anomaly bothered some of the colonists, but Kezthalan explained it was actually positive. In Dominion thinking, an anomaly meant something that did not fit their predictive models. It meant humanity had surprised them. Surprise meant interest, and interest meant a chance. The colonists practiced how they would greet the Dominion delegation. They rehearsed what they would say, how they would present their culture and values. Peter Campbell worked with a team to prepare a formal statement that balanced strength with openness, confidence with humility. Emma was included in all the planning. The council recognized that her relationship with Kezthalan was their strongest advantage. She represented humanity's capacity for compassion and courage, but her parents worried about putting their 8-year-old daughter at the center of such a dangerous situation. "What if something goes wrong?" Greg asked during a family discussion. "What if they see her as weak because she's a child?" "They will not see weakness," Kezthalan said. He had been included in the conversation. "In Emma, they will see impossibility. She did what trained warriors would not do. She showed mercy to enemy. This is not weakness. This is strength of different kind." Lisa looked at her daughter. "Emma, you understand that this is dangerous? That we're asking a lot of you?" "I know, Mom," Emma said seriously. "But Kezthalan is my friend. I want to help him. And I want to help everyone. If I can do that by just being myself and telling the truth, then that's what I'll do." "You're growing up so fast," Lisa said softly, pulling Emma into a hug. The final days brought a mix of anxiety and determination. The colony looked better than it ever had. The preparations were as complete as they could be. Now they could only wait. On the evening before the Dominion ship's arrival, the colony held a gathering in the central square. Someone suggested music, and soon people were playing instruments, singing, sharing food. It was a celebration of community, a reminder of what made humanity special. Kezthalan attended, his first time in the center of the colony. He moved carefully, aware that his size and appearance still frightened some people. But children ran up to him without fear, asking questions and showing him their drawings. Adults approached cautiously, then with growing curiosity. A little girl named Sophie, who was only 5 years old, walked right up to the massive alien warrior and held up her arms. "Up?" she asked simply. Everyone froze. Kezthalan stared down at the tiny human child. He had held weapons. He had carried equipment. He had never held a child. Carefully, incredibly gently, he picked up Sophie and lifted her to his shoulder level. She laughed with delight. "You're really tall," she said. "Can you see everything from up here?" "Yes," Kezthalan said, his voice uncertain. "Everything. It must be nice to be tall," Sophie decided. Then she patted his armored head like he was a friendly dog and asked to be put down so she could go play. The moment broke something in the tension. People laughed, not at Kezthalan, but with relief and joy. Here was this fierce warrior from a conquering empire, being gentle with their smallest child. If he could be trusted with Sophie, maybe the Dominion could be reasoned with. Later that night, as the gathering wound down, Kezthalan stood with Emma, looking up at the stars. "Tomorrow everything changes," Emma said. "Yes, but you changed everything first. 2 weeks ago, when you said, 'That must hurt.' I just wanted to help. You did more than help. You taught. You showed me that universe is bigger than conquest, that beings can choose cooperation over conflict, that small acts of kindness can echo across stars." Emma smiled. "That's really poetic for a warrior." "I learned from good teacher," Kezthalan said, and Emma could hear the warmth in his clicking alien voice. The next morning dawned clear and bright. The Dominion ship appeared in the sky right on schedule, a massive silver vessel that dwarfed anything humans had built. It settled into orbit like a moon, visible to everyone below. The message came at midday. The Dominion delegation would land in 2 hours at the colony's central gathering space. They requested the presence of colony leadership and the juvenile human referenced in preliminary reports, Emma. The moment had arrived. 300 families, 1 alien warrior, and 1 brave little girl would face an empire and argue that humanity deserved a place among the stars. Emma put on her best clothes. Her mother braided her hair. Her father gave her a hug that lasted a long time. "Just be yourself," Lisa said. "That's all anyone can ask. And remember," Greg added, "you're not alone. We're all right there with you." The Dominion shuttle descended through New Haven's atmosphere precisely at noon. It was smaller than the massive ship in orbit, but still impressive, built from materials that seemed to shift between metal and something else entirely. The craft landed in the colony's central square without a sound, settling onto the ground as gently as a falling leaf. The entire colony had gathered to witness this moment. 300 humans stood in organized groups trying to look calm and confident. Children held their parents' hands. Scientists clutched their data pads. Helen Brooks and her security team stood ready, not threatening but alert. Emma stood near the front with her parents, Peter Campbell and Dr. Cole. Kezthalan positioned himself slightly apart, between the human delegation and where the Dominion representatives would emerge. He was the bridge, the connection between 2 very different civilizations. A door opened in the shuttle's side, and 3 figures emerged. The first was clearly Vrathak, like Kezthalan but larger and covered in more elaborate armor. This had to be Commander Vaxteel. Her crystalline eyes swept across the assembled humans with an intensity that made many people step back involuntarily. The second figure was completely different. Smaller, almost delicate-looking, with multiple sensory appendages that moved independently. This was Scholar Ithranus, whose species Emma did not recognize. The scholar carried devices that were probably recording everything. The third figure, Observer Kelmark, appeared to be some kind of documentation specialist. They moved with precise, measured steps, their attention focused on details. Commander Vaxteel approached the human delegation. When she spoke, a translation device rendered her words into English. "I am Commander Vaxteel of the Dominion Sovereignty Fleet. This is Scholar Ithranus and Observer Kelmark. We represent the Dominion Council in this first contact evaluation." Peter Campbell stepped forward, his voice steady despite his nervousness. "I am Peter Campbell, elected leader of the New Haven colony. On behalf of humanity, we welcome you and hope this meeting will be the beginning of peaceful relations between our peoples. Vaxteel's eyes shifted colors slightly. Your hope is noted. However, hope does not determine outcomes. Actions and capabilities determine outcomes. The commander's gaze moved across the gathering until it fixed on Emma. You are the juvenile who provided aid to Scout Kezthalan. Emma stepped forward, her heart beating fast but her voice clear. Yes, ma'am. My name is Emma Harris. I found him hurt in the forest and wanted to help. Why? The single-word question hung in the air. Everyone waited for Emma's answer. This small moment might determine everything. Emma thought carefully about her response. Because he was in pain. Because helping people who are hurt is the right thing to do. Because I thought if I was kind to him, maybe he would be kind back. And I was right. Scholar Ithranus made a sound that the translator did not interpret. Then the scholar spoke. You assumed reciprocity based on no prior evidence of the species' behavioral patterns. This is statistically improbable decision-making for your developmental stage. Maybe, Emma said. But it worked. Kezthalan became my friend. He learned about us. He warned us you were coming. He gave us time to prepare. If I had run away or hurt him or told the soldiers, none of that would have happened. Vaxteel's attention shifted to Kezthalan. Scout, your reports describe significant deviation from standard operational protocols. Explain your reasoning. Kezthalan stood at attention, but his voice carried conviction rather than mere obedience. Commander, I was trained to view compassion as weakness and mercy as tactical error. The humans demonstrated that this assessment is incomplete. They possess emotional intelligence that enhances survival capability, rather than diminishing it. He gestured toward Emma. This juvenile made risk assessment that appeared irrational by our standards. She determined I was not an immediate threat. She chose to render aid despite potential danger. This behavior, which we classify as weakness, actually demonstrated sophisticated strategic thinking. By establishing peaceful contact with unknown species, she gained intelligence and created diplomatic options. Kezthalan continued, his words coming more easily now. Her actions were both compassionate and tactically sound. The humans have developed social structures based on cooperation and mutual aid. These structures create resilience that purely hierarchical systems lack. They have something we lost, Commander. Something we might benefit from remembering. Vaxteel studied Kezthalan for a long moment. Then she turned back to the human delegation. The Dominion has encountered 247 sentient species. All responded to first contact with fear, aggression, or submission. None responded with aid to a wounded scout from an unknown civilization. This behavior pattern is unprecedented in our records. Peter Campbell seized the opening. Commander, humanity has learned through painful experience that strength comes in many forms. We have nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times through conflict. We chose a different path. We believe cooperation, empathy, and understanding create more lasting security than conquest. Scholar Ithranus consulted one of their devices. The Dominion's historical records contain similar philosophical frameworks. Before the Consolidation Wars approximately 3,000 cycles ago, the founding species practiced extensive cultural exchange and mutual aid protocols. This revelation surprised Vaxteel, though she masked it quickly. Those practices were deemed inefficient and abandoned. But were they? Lisa Harris asked, stepping forward. Her scientist's mind saw an opportunity. We study ecosystems here on New Haven. The most stable, resilient systems are not the ones where one species dominates. They are the ones with the most diversity and the most interconnection. The same principle applies to civilizations. Vaxteel considered this. You suggest the Dominion's expansion model is flawed. I suggest it's incomplete, Lisa said diplomatically. Conquest provides resources and territory, but cooperation provides innovation, cultural enrichment, and unexpected solutions to problems. Both have value. The discussion continued for over an hour. The Dominion delegation asked detailed questions about human history, social structures, and development. They were particularly interested in how humanity transitioned from global warfare to cooperative space exploration. Dr. Cole shared information about human educational systems, about how children were taught to value empathy and cooperation. Karen White presented information about human technology and innovation, carefully balancing honesty about limitations with pride in achievements. Throughout it all, Emma stood near Kesthalen, occasionally holding his hand. The gesture did not go unnoticed by the Dominion observers. Finally, observer Kelmark spoke for the first time. Commander, analysis suggests a novel approach. The Dominion's expansion model assumes all species follow predictable patterns. These humans demonstrate alternative patterns. Rather than conquest or elimination, propose observational study protocol. Elaborate, Vaxteel commanded. Establish diplomatic monitoring station. Limited cultural exchange. Observe human development without interference. Assess whether their cooperative behaviors remain consistent across various conditions. If behaviors prove durable and effective, their methodologies might have applications in Dominion integration protocols. It was not full diplomatic recognition. It was not an alliance, but it was far better than conquest or elimination. It meant humanity would have time, would have a chance to prove themselves, would have the opportunity to eventually become recognized as equals rather than subjects. Before Vaxteel could respond, Emma spoke up again. Can Kesthalen stay? Just for a while longer? I still have so much to teach him, and he promised to tell me about the other worlds he's seen. The audacity of a human child making requests of a Dominion commander should have been offensive. Instead, Vaxteel made a sound that the translator struggled with before settling on surprised respect. Scout Kesthalen, do you wish to remain as cultural liaison? Kesthalen looked at Emma, at the colony that had helped heal him, at the world that had changed his entire understanding of existence. Yes, Commander. I believe I can provide valuable insights into human behavioral patterns. And I have much to learn. Vaxteel made her decision. The Dominion will establish a monitoring presence near New Haven. Scout Kesthalen will serve as primary liaison. Formal diplomatic channels will be established between Dominion authority and Earth governing structures. Humanity is classified as developing species of interest. You are not invited to join the Dominion, but neither are you dismissed as irrelevant. Peter Campbell understood the significance. We have earned the Dominion's curiosity. Curiosity is more valuable than most species achieve, Vaxteel said. Do not waste this opportunity. The commander approached Emma one final time. Juvenile Emma Harris, your actions have altered the trajectory of interspecies relations in this sector. The Dominion acknowledges this contribution. You demonstrated that strength manifests in unexpected forms. Emma smiled, relieved and happy. Thank you. I just hope Kesthalen and I can stay friends for a long time. An unusual aspiration, Vaxteel observed, but perhaps not an impossible one. The Dominion delegation returned to their shuttle. As it lifted off, carrying them back to the